Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. Chairman Tonko, Ranking Member Shimkus, Ranking Member Walden, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Geoff Cooper, and I am the President and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, a trade association representing the U.S. ethanol industry. I appreciate the opportunity to share our industry's concerns regarding EPA's rampant abuse of RFS small refinery exemptions, or SREs. When properly implemented, the Renewable Fuel Standard is an extraordinary program. It decreases reliance on imported petroleum, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, lowers gas prices, and boosts the economy. The RFS achieves these goals by ensuring that biofuels are afforded access to a fuel market that is otherwise closed to competition. Unfortunately, the current administration's approach to implementation has destabilized the RFS and created significant uncertainty in the marketplace. Specifically, EPA's flagrant abuse of SREs has resulted in lower production and use of ethanol, increased emissions, higher gas prices, and lost jobs. In recent years, EPA has granted an unprecedented number of SREs and disregarded the established requirements for eligibility. SREs were intended to be temporary, meaning there should be fewer exemptions granted each year as more small refineries come into compliance. Further, exemptions were meant to be available only to refineries that demonstrate compliance with the RFS itself would cause them disproportionate economic hardship, something that would be incredibly difficult for any refinery to show today, given historically low RIN prices and the fact that compliance costs are fully passed through to the refiner's customers. Under the current administration, EPA has granted an average of 28 SREs per year, eroding renewable fuel blending requirements by an average of 1.35 billion gallons annually. That compares to just 7 SREs per year on average and a reduction in the RFS requirements of just 230 million gallons under the previous administration. So we've seen a 4-fold increase in the number of exemptions granted and a 6-fold increase in the volume of exemptions granted. The dramatic increase in SREs has resulted in demand destruction and some of the worst market conditions in the industry's history. The RFS was intended to continually grow the volume of domestic ethanol consumption, but unfortunately the demand increase promised by the RFS has not materialized due to the SREs. After 22 straight years of successive increases, U.S. ethanol demand in 2018 fell from 2017 levels. And before the massive increase in SREs, U.S. ethanol consumption for this year, 2019, was expected by EIA to top out at above 14.8 billion gallons. EIA now expects 2019 consumption will be closer to 14.3 billion gallons, so a loss of 500 million gallons of demand. Ethanol consumption would have fallen even further if not for the dramatic downward adjustment in ethanol prices. Ethanol had to maintain competitiveness, and so prices fell. And as prices fell, net returns at ethanol plants deteriorated to the lowest levels since at least 2007. Facing weak or negative margins, ethanol plants have been forced to idle or permanently shutter. We have seen 19 ethanol plants, at least 19 plants, idle or close since spring of 2018 when this issue really began. When an ethanol plant goes down, the local community suffers. We're talking about lost jobs. We're talking about a reduction of 20 to 25 cents per bushel in corn prices. We estimate that, with these 19 plants that have recently idled or closed, we're talking about 700 direct jobs that have been lost and about 2,800 jobs indirectly that have been affected in related sectors. Unfortunately, EPA's recent supplemental proposal, which was intended to implement a relief package promised by President Trump, fails to correct these problems. The bait and switch employed by EPA in this latest proposal does not ensure that the statutory volume for conventional biofuels will be enforced in 2020 or beyond, and we think it is likely the 2020 requirement for conventional biofuels could again be eroded to less than 15 billion gallons. In short, EPA's proposal will not bring idle plants back online, and it won't put furloughed workers back to work. I want to close by expressing RFA's strong support for H.R. 3006, where I come from would call that 30-06, which begins to resolve some of the problems we are discussing today. The bill would ensure EPA's final RVOs are actually enforced and not eroded by SREs. the bill also contains important provisions that would greatly enhance transparency. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.